Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start. Welcome to you all. I think perhaps more people will join later on the session. The session will be recorded. We hope you're okay with that. If you don't want to be shown, then you don't use your webcam. It doesn't matter, then please leave it on. It's always nice to see faces and not to talk to names with a black background. Tonight is presented by a variety of organizations. The first one is Rethinking Economics Antwerp with Xenia, Catherine, and myself, and also people supporting like Joris and Ingrid and Jonathan and many more. We do it also with Imagine Life, which is the center that we have. Xenia is representing it in the center of Antwerp, where unfortunately due to Corona, we're not capable of organizing events. So we do it online, which has the possibility, of course, to invite people from all over the planet, which is a benefit. And we also have Restory that joined the organization to support us. I don't know if the people, Misha or the Grande, Geert, if and Elk, if they already here. So Restory
I'm
is
here,
Misha. Okay, I didn't see you. So it's a very beautiful platform. With a lot of interesting stories by journalists made. So definitely worth having a look at. The Rethinking Economics Antwerp organization started in October 2020, actually in August, but the first event we organized for Rethinking Economics for a Thriving Society was in October. We had various speakers and we call it, the focus is on thriving and thrivability, and how to rethink economics in order to get there. So tonight, this is going to be also the topic. Maybe I will explain you briefly how it will be organized tonight, the proceedings of this evening. The first part will be me interviewing Tristan Dissaux during roughly 40-45 minutes. Then there will be a Q&A. You will be asked to use the chat box to ask your questions. The questions will be after the interview of 40 minutes. We're not going to combine it. But we're going to make sure that hopefully most or all of your questions are being discussed. Then I'm going to ask you to join breakout rooms so that you have the chance to meet other people that are with us tonight. We will give you 2 or 3 questions that you can discuss in the breakout room. You will be approximately 5 people in the breakout room for 25 minutes. And then we're going to call you back in the main room. We're going to ask you to share a bit what was discussed in the breakout rooms, and then you can ask additional questions to Tristan about his project, the donut in Brussels. And then we finish maximum at 10 o'clock. We will call it a night, not a day, and we will end in the evening. So that's the program. So without further ado, I would like you to listen to Tristan Dissaux. We're going to put him in the main focus. And my first question is, and I'm going to ask the other people perhaps to mute themselves so that we have full focus on Tristan. Can you tell us a bit about your background, your education, and before we're going to dive into the donut and Brussels. So what made you in the person that you are today? So that's a very broad opening question to you, Tristan.
Yes, indeed. Good evening, everyone. It's nice to see so many people tonight. And thank you for Rethinking Economics and all of you guys for the invitation. So a few words about my background to start. I have a pluridisciplinary training, as I did a bachelor in earth sciences and then a master degree in economics. So I kind of combined the hard sciences, so to speak, with the social sciences of economics. And the reason why I did this choice was that I wanted to work in agricultural development in the South. And of course, for this kind of topic, you need to mix elements from earth sciences, biology, ecology, and what happens with societies and humans in the social world. So that was my motivation to combine these fields. And finally, I didn't work in this field as expected, because I got interested in monetary innovations, which is actually my main focus of research. And by monetary innovations, I mean all kind of complementary currencies, which can be local currencies, so very, very low-tech currencies using paper notes, to the other end of the spectrum. Of course, digital currencies, Bitcoin, Libra, the project of Facebook, and the reason why I got interested in monetary innovations was that those projects of actually people redesigning money at the local level was very much reasoning with development issues that I was studying in my studies. They created monetary tools to answer concrete development issues, whether them being social, economic, ecological. So I got very interested in those objects, and I actually did my PhD on local currencies used in Kenya, and I studied in which way they could contribute to sustainable development, because my main interest is sustainable development in all the sense of this concept. Development which is endogenous, grounded, so a development which also contributes in building social links and social ties.
So if I can just interrupt, so you studied earth sciences and economics, so you combined both, and then during your you discovered that money was a key issue topic, perhaps lacking, and then you went for a PhD, and that you did, if I understood it correctly, in Kenya.
Yes, I did my PhD in France, but I did a lot of field study in Kenya. I studied local currencies implemented in Kenya, so I spent some time there for my PhD, combining the study of local currencies with the usual monetary system there, which uses a mobile money system in particular. Okay.
And then all the way from Kenya, how did you end up in the Brussels Donut project? How was that link made?
Yeah, so the link is the topic of sustainability. As I said, I got interested in those monetary innovations because they have the potential to contribute to sustainability. And that's why I got into the Donut Brussels project, which is a project in which we investigate the many ways we can implement the donut economy framework at the scale of Brussels to foster the transition of the region in a more sustainable way.
I think most of the people that joined in here tonight are aware of the donut economics of Kate Raworth. She introduced the book, and then she's been talking on several occasions. I know that like the city of Amsterdam also started a project, but how did you end up then with working with Kate or the donut? I mean, was it an application, or how did you discover it?
So the project itself is born through the political will of the Secretary of State, Barbara Tracht, from the Brussels region, which really wants to mobilize the donut theory to orient the transition pathway of the region. So she kind of requested for an explanatory project to see how that could be done very, very concretely, because of course the donut framework is very easy to understand, but once you try to see how you can implement it in concrete ways, you have of course a lot of questions arising, and there are, I think, an infinite number of ways to apply concretely the donut.
Maybe we can, just for the understanding of us all, perhaps quickly explain the donut model briefly. I think you have a slide that explains it a bit, and
sure.
then you already link it to Brussels.
Yeah.
So
let me get my slides. So just a few words. As you said, I think many people are already familiar with the donut. But just as a recall, the donut has two ways, has two filiations, so to speak. It actually combines elements of both earth sciences at first, what the literature calls planetary boundaries, and 9 planetary boundaries are identified by the literature that we cannot go beyond. Otherwise, we risk to destabilize our Earth system and to jeopardize our living conditions. And basically, Kate Howers thought if there are planetary boundaries, we should also have a social foundation. And that's the second part of the donut, which comes from human rights and the social development goals in particular adopted by the UN. And combining these two frameworks, you get the donut, which is the representation of those two elements: the social foundation, which is the inner circle, and the ecological ceiling, which is the outer circle. And in between, you have defined this so-called safe, ecologically safe and socially just space for humanity. And basically, as a theme of tonight is thriving, that's the space in which we are able to thrive, the space that we should be in order for our societies to thrive. So you have here the donut in details. I don't think we need to go in all these diverse dimensions, but just to mention that the donut is really a new vision of progress. It invites us to replace the objective of economic growth, which, as we all know, didn't deliver the results that it was supposed to in terms of course, progress, social and ecological issues, but replace this goal of economic growth, but by what is called balanced prosperity. So prosper, to thrive in this space defined by the donut. So it's really a compass. We really liked the comparison, the metaphor of the compass. The donut is a very useful compass for us to decide on the path that we should use. And just a last picture that I like to present the donut is this one. The donut gives us the direction that we have to follow. Our path have to, of course, go back to this safe and just space, because we know we are not yet in there, and we have to stay in between those two limits. So it's really a very helpful guide to decide on which actions to take, on which decisions to make at any level.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a very clear explanation. I think indeed the donut offers us, like you said, it's kind of compass to move towards thrivability, and that's the topic of tonight. I think when she presented it, her idea was also to get the whole world into action, so that we as a global species on this planet moved in towards that direction. But of course, the questions came very quickly. How can you make it more concrete? How can you realize it? And I think then perhaps the steps were made, okay, maybe not only on a global level, we should work with communities. And that's perhaps why we ended up with cities like Amsterdam and now Brussels that got involved in that transition. One of the questions that probably the audience has too is how do you translate this relatively theoretical concept into reality? How can you transfer it to actions-driven city planning policies and so on? So how do you tackle that with the Brussels government cap. I don't know who you're talking to, but how does it work specifically?
Yeah. So I can also bring up some slides to answer this question. First, there is a last theoretical element to take into account to really realize how to apply it at the local level very concretely. It is the four lenses which are actually very useful to think about the application of the donut in very concrete terms. Why do we need four lenses? Because the donut as itself, it was made for the global world, for the Earth as a whole. But as soon as you look at things at a smaller level, whether it being a country, a town, or a region, you have to have a broader view, because you have to combine what is about the local aspirations and the global responsibilities. So how do you live here? What are the impacts that you generate here? But also, what are the impacts that you generate for others beyond the boundaries of the region that you are considering? So the four lenses come from the combination of the scale, the local and the social on the one hand, and of the issues that we have to tackle, the social, the ecological and the social issues on the other end. And when you cross these two entries, you get these four lenses, which bring, as you see, four questions, which really help in putting the donut into action. So local social lens is about people here. How do they live? What are their living standards? What do they aspire to? What are their aspirations? The local ecological lens is about how your city is actually inscribing itself into the environment that surrounds it. Does it contribute to the ecological services, for example, that the surrounding nature provides? The global ecological lens is about the impact that you generate for the whole world. So, for example, do you emit more greenhouse gas emissions than you should? Do you use your fair share of the world resources? And at last, the global social lens is about the people that don't live here, but which you are connected to through all the things that we buy and which are imported from abroad. So what about the many people who participate in extracting the resources that we use? What about the people that make all the stuff that we consume? And those four lenses are really a very holistic framework to apply the donut in a very concrete way. And I can describe now how we do that in the framework of the Process Donut project, if you want.
Yes, please. I think it would be very interesting now to zoom into one of these or all four, because, like, for example, in social issues, it's about housing, water, and food supply. And I think, like in a city as Brussels, it's probably a very critical thing as well. No?
Sure. Actually, when we look through those four lenses, we realize things that we actually didn't expect. And in all the applications that we do, we see that these four lenses are actually very useful to be an eye opener on the many issues that we have to tackle. But I can get actually more even more concrete, explaining you what we do in the Process Donut project. Not only to tell you what we do, because we think it's important, but because we came up with four ways of applying the donut, which we think allow to speak to anybody, whether they're being a simple citizen from the region, a consumer, a politician, an activist, through those four levels that we have explored, from the macro level to the nano level, which I will say a few words about. We think we show that everybody can grasp the donut and put it into action.
Okay.
So the macro level is the donut portrait. So it's the idea of taking those limits, this ecological sailing and this social foundation, and to wonder, okay, what about my city? What about my region in relation to those ecological sailing and social foundation? Are we above or below?
And maybe a small remark here, you do mention Brussels region, no longer Brussels city, because we had like Daniel Christian Wall with us, and he was talking about we should look at regions in between rivers, for example. If we talk about regeneration of regions, so you also extend it not to the city of Brussels itself, but to the whole region.
Yes. We look at things at a regional level, not only the Brussels city level. So the 19 cities which form the Brussels region.
Okay, yeah.
And so we do it through the donut portrait. You see here the 4 lenses that I just presented. And you have an overview here of the donut portrait that we build of the region. And you see, we could go into more details afterwards if you want, but you see we have those 4 lenses, and we went to institutions, public administrations, and we asked them what data do you have to reflect about the reality of Brussels on those 4 lenses. So it's very useful to have this state of things. Where do we are today?
So you had the active participation. I mean, they were willing to share it because you need to have a lot of data collection from the different communities of Brussels on mobility, I see, and on culture and etc.
Yes, that's also a good thing about the portrait, because it mobilizes many different stakeholders. So you have to mobilize a lot of actors to really cover all those different topics, which is also a good way to have them all around the table. So yes, we first worked with local agencies, the statistical agency for the Brussels region, the environment agency, but we also went to all the civil society actors, who also have data about the region, and most of the time they cover dimensions which the official administrations doesn't cover. So
and they helped easily. They were volunteering easily, or were they pushed? I mean, was it somewhere? A mayor, the city major that decided or pushed it through, or how did you get started with it?
No, we didn't need to have a push from the minister or anything. They are all very willing to collaborate, and I think most of them got very interested in the process. At first, they just answer questions and give us the data, but we also imply them in the building of this portrait, getting them to know about the sense that it has. And most of them were very willing to participate and very interested in the process.
Because, for example, on the left top corner, I see food and housing, for example. So there were like scorings in it, if they were satisfied with the quality of the housing. Did you go to that level?
So yes, we have data about quality of housing. For example, we have the share of the population which doesn't have proper housing in terms of quality. We have the number of homeless people, for example. So we really try to select the indicators which give us the most accurate sense of the reality of the region.
Okay, that was on the macro level, and then you went a step further.
Yeah.
Down.
So, when you have this portrait, it gives you the situation of the present day. It gives you the situation that you want to get to, because you also set goals, but it doesn't tell you how to get there, how to get to this end results. So that's what we do in the other levels. At this meso level, we study political strategies, so public policy decisions. and we run workshops with administrations, cities administrations, all different agencies at the regional level, to get them around the table again, to work on those 4 lenses, asking them what about putting the strategy that you are thinking about implementing in the Brussels region at the center of the 4 lenses, and to look at this strategy on this holistic view that those 4 lenses invite us to have. Because most of the time, politicians only think about, the local impact of their policies. Most of the times, in terms of jobs and GDP, but it can have many side effects which may not be taken into account. So again, here the 4 lenses really bring a holistic way for them to evaluate their policies, and to maybe reframe them or redesign them to be positive, to be contributive on those 4 lenses.
Isn't there a challenge? Because I think political parties, they have different views on how to move forward, to bring them all together in one strategy.
Yes, of course. Not only you have different political parties, but you also have all the different administrations and cabinets, which are their proper field of action. But actually, it's also a very good point about this way of doing things. Once you have identified all the impacts or all the potential impacts that a strategy can have, you can also link them to the people and the administrations, all the actors at the regional level, which are concerned by those impacts. And maybe you will realize you are missing people around the table. You need to call these other administrations, maybe which cover a topic which is not directly linked to this strategy, but actually through those 4 lenses. And that's what we saw in the workshops that we did. You realize that it has this particular impacts on another topic that you didn't think about. And when you visualize it, you will also realize you need to go to these other administrations to bring it on the table as well.
Okay. And then you went from the meso to the micro level?
Yeah. The micro level is the level of situations, what we call situations. So here we wanted to start from the action already taking place in Brussels, because there are many actors which are already active in implementing a donut economy, or at least which are engaged in a transition pathway. So we really wanted to go to see what are their reality, what are the breaks, the difficulties that they face in putting it into action, putting the donut into action. What are maybe the levers that they mobilize? And again, here we mobilize the 4 lenses to study their actions, but we also mobilize concepts from the donut economy, the principles, the embedded economy, for example, and we speak with them about distributive and regenerative economy. So really starting from the reality happening on the ground and seeing what we can learn from them.
Can I ask you, like, when did you start with that whole process? How many people were involved, and how many of these meeting sessions did you have? Because it looks like a gigantic job to do.
Yes, indeed, and we could have used many more time and energy to pursue this project. It started 9 months ago, 10 months now, and we are a team of 7 people. So it was a short and limited project, but we really wanted to explore the many ways of implementing the donut.
And if I read there, situation Massui Zinneke, what does exactly mean, état des lieux? So can you perhaps explain a bit?
Yeah, so in this case, it's an association which is called Zinneke, which is a cultural association. It organizes the Zinneke Parade in Brussels, which is a street festival linked with the identity of Brussels. And they organize many more cultural events in Brussels. And they actually moving to a new building, which is a very old building. It used to be owned by the region, and they refurbish completely the whole building in a circular way. So following strong principle of reusing material, of circular economy, creating jobs also for the local area in Brussels where they are. So actually, they think about their action of rebuilding, renovating this building in terms of the donut, and we wanted to see what concretely does that mean. And we studied with them what they are already doing and what they could do maybe more to be even more aligned with the donut principles.
Because I guess if you look at the region of Brussels, at the moment, quite a lot of people are living inside donut, so not on the donut, because there are still a lot of social issues lacking. And probably the region of Brussels is trespassing the ecological boundaries as well. So how do you see all these actions? So first, having painted an overview of what's going on now and how to improve, how can you manage to get then everybody in the Brussels regions living on the donut and not inside or trespassing the borders?
Well, that's a big task, of course. If you have all the actors adopting this mindset, for example, here in the Mazui situation, at the top left corner, you have what we call the Donut Express. So you see the donut. And we mapped, okay, what about this particular actor? What are they acting on? So maybe they will reduce greenhouse gas emissions. They will create jobs on the social aspects. So what are they already doing by their actions? And you see afterwards we map it. We map those different actions on the 4 lenses. And we think in terms of economic design. That's the last step. The signboard which is used by Kate to think about the economic organization, economic design, which can sustain a donut economy.
So for each organization that you encountered in Brussels that is already active, you make this kind of a map in which you map their activities on the 4 lenses, what they are adding to it, and what they can do even more.
Yes, and not only we do it only to study those particular cases, but we also wanted to build a methodological guide. So actually, from those a few tests that we did this exercise with 2 associations and 1 private company, which is also interesting to compare. From those tests that we run with them, we are building a methodological guide, which we hope will be used by many more actors without us being with them. And that's a way to put the region into action, to show by those examples what does it mean for an association, for a company, to get into the donut in a very concrete way. So we are also creating tools which can be used by others to take this direction of the donut.
If you look at the signboard, which you see at the bottom, it says Purpose, Governance, Networks, Ownership, and Finance. Since you've been very much involved in complementary currencies, I mean, because I think you need money to realize all the actions that you plan in here. Is that also part of the donut economy approach?
Yeah, this finance topic is about how do you finance your activity, and how does those financing modalities affect your action. Of course, it won't be the same if you get a grant from the region, for example, or if you raise capital from shareholders. you not have the same expectations, and you're not going to frame your action in the same way. So this topic about in the signboard invites the actors to think about the way they finance their activities and the consequence that it has on the concrete activities that they have, and how they could finance in other ways. And of course, I would advocate for a role of complementary currencies here, which is not something that we explored as part of the Donut project. But of course, complementary currencies are a very concrete tool that are really compatible with the donut economy, because they orient our consumption and they foster production in a way which is really aligned with the donut principles.
Mm-hmm. Did you get any support in making this for Brussels from experiences they have with the donut in other cities, like for example, cooperation with the people of Amsterdam who are working on it?
Sure. Well, of course, we started the project by looking at what has been done elsewhere. And for example, the donut portrait is something that Amsterdam was the first city to do. And we just followed what they did regarding this portrait. We have been the most innovative, I think, at this micro level, building this joint investigation, donut joint investigation, as we called it, which is in this case a very innovative methodology. But of course, we build on what has been done elsewhere. There is a very active network at the international level in which we have monthly meetings in which all the cities and all the regions implementing the donut join to exchange about what they are doing and the best practices, what they learn, and what the difficulties that they.
And which cities are participating then, or some of the names?
So near us, you have Berlin, you have Cambridge, and further away, there is Ottawa. There's cities. I think there's Rio, for example. There's Sydney, Melbourne. So many cities. I think there are actually maybe 30 of them at the moment. So it's a very vibrant movement at the national level.
You didn't mention the nano yet, or I must have missed it. So you have the macro, meso, micro, and then the nano level. I don't know if you have. Yeah.
So that's the last thing that we investigate. We really wanted to have a very easy entry point for anybody to understand the donut. So we really wanted to start from a concrete everyday object. So what about this pen? What about this apple? What can I learn if I look at it through the four lenses of the donut?
Well, we have somebody who is not muted. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
And so we decided to do the donut portrait of an object, and we chose the smartphone because, of course, it's an object that we all use now. And again, you have here the overview of the donut portrait of the smartphone, which is now the working document that we have, but it will be redesigned to be really understandable by very easily and to be.
Can you explain this a bit? What you're showing to us now? Can you? Yeah.
So again, here you see the four lenses of the donut portrait, and basically what we did was to map all the implications of the smartphone on the four lenses. So, for example, on the global ecological lens, you have all the issues relating to the resources which are needed to build the smartphones. And on the global social lens, as a mirror, you have all the working conditions of the people extracting those minerals, in Asia or in African countries, in very bad conditions. You also have local ecological issues, which are not which are less numerous, because, for example, you have energy consumption, You have local wastes.
But that's now done on Indeed and Nano on a product level. But I think if you, because one of the questions is going to be with the whole 9 months trajectory that you've done, trying to map everything which is going on using the 4 lenses, working with the different stakeholders. What are the steps forward, concrete steps forward? How are you improving the conditions, the living conditions, the housing conditions, the access to food conditions, the access to education conditions in Brussels? How do you translate that into improvement? So
all those 4 levels, I mentioned that for the micro levels, the methodological elements, we do this at the 4 levels. The reason why we did this smartphone portrait was not only to get to this portrait, which can be informative in itself, but also to create a guide for consumers to think about what they buy and what they consume in terms of the donut, and also to create tools for schools. In particular, we built a pedagogical tool which can be used in schools, for example, to explore what does it mean to look at an object through the 4 lenses of the donut. So of course, we won't be contributing to improving the living conditions very directly in the framework of this project, but we hope that thanks to the different tools that we will produce, which can be used by citizens as consumers, but also by politicians at the level of administrations, and as I said, by associations and private companies also. We can create a movement of people really taking the donut into action where they are now and starting in this direction.
Mm-hmm. Before opening the floor to questions from the audience, I have a very, for us, important question, because Rethinking Economics started in the UK, students and teachers saying that the way economics were being taught in universities was not okay. It was the neoliberal way of thinking, profit maximization, growth. So they wanted it differently. It started more than 10 years ago. With Rethinking Economics in Belgium, we're trying to do the same. We're trying to influence universities and business schools to offer a plural view on economics, so including feminine economy, ecological economy. Is your project, you mentioned a bit at the end, for example, making that that mapping for the Fairphone or iPhone or whatever. What is the impact for you for education in Brussels, for example? Is there a link between your project and the way youngsters are being educated about economics, and what would be your proposal?
Yes, so the tool relating to the smartphone and the object approach is more for primary school or not for universities, but yeah, it could be adapted. We don't have at the moment concrete projects with universities, yet we have 2 researchers which are also involved in the project, and which are actually teachers, and they teach the donut in their courses at the university level. So yeah, that's a good thing to realize, that the donut and all the diverse approach in economics are starting to be taught, maybe too slowly, but I think we have progress in the last years in this direction. There's a lot to be done yet.
Because if I listen to colleagues and also look in Antwerp, in a lot of universities, applied economics or business, the donut economics book, for example, shows up in the 5th year, the last master year, in a course like, oh, we also have something like this. But I mean, 4 years they've been learning how to sell more, do this more. So it still seems to be lacking. So when I hear there's such a project in Brussels going on, I think the link with universities would be really useful, so that at least there is a cooperation, and that also the knowledge of universities can be used, and the youngsters can be trained in such a way that they take it into account.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we hope to see more courses adopting the donut, and I think it shouldn't be just an addition at the end of the courses, as you said. but it should be much more part of the core teaching that students receive.
Okay, Tristan, thank you very much. I think you gave us a very good explanation, first of all, of what the donut is, and then how the process was in getting it implemented in Brussels with the different lenses and so on and so forth. I'm going to open the floor now for the audience to ask questions to Tristan. You can or use the chat box, or you can unmute yourself, but perhaps, I don't know if you can raise your hand so I can see hands being raised. So what are the burning questions you have? Tim is leaving, but okay, we're certainly not leaving, finishing the session. There's still a lot more to come, but good night, Tim. So what are questions from the audience at the moment that you have based on what?
I have a question.
Okay. Mariana?
Yes, I think you mentioned, yeah, the people who you inspired to start this project, in this case for you was Amsterdam, but I'm more interested to know which organizations offer you support since the beginning, because I guess it's easier for people to jump on board when the project is already established, but I'm interested like who, when the project was still in zero, which organizations offer support to you and said help you to start.
Okay, thank you for that question.
Yeah, so I mentioned already the international network of donut cities or donut regions. So that is something which is coordinated from Amsterdam. The Amsterdam Donut Coalition as it's a community manager which is also organizing this network at the international level, and of course the other main organization is the DEAL, so the Donut Economics Action Lab, which is the organization founded by Kate Raworth, and which is the organization. You can go to their website. There's a lot of resources and news from all over the world about all the initiatives going on.
But that are organizations from the donut itself, but do you have like other partners, communities, NGOs?
Yeah. So in the Brussels Donut project, we really wanted to not only produce the results of our project, but also really to create a coalition, a movement at the Brussels region level. So we really wanted to invite as much people and as much organizations interested participate in our workshops. All the work that we did was really led in terms of co-creation. Co-creation was a very important aspect of work for us, especially to create this movement, to create connections between organizations. And yes, we did indeed collaborate with many of them. All organizations already active in the many fields considered by the donut.
There's a question. Can you tell us something? It's coming from Restory. Can you tell us something about the first learnings? Because I think you told me before we started this session that next week is very important because you have to. It's a deadline. You're gonna present your findings. Can you tell us already something about the first learnings?
Yes, so indeed we are wrapping up the project and we'll be finalizing our reports next week. So there are different levels of results. We have on one end the direct results of and what we learned from the actions that we implemented, but also all the methodological bodies that we created through those experiments that we did. So and I think it's actually the most important part. As I said, all the tools that we created. So basically, the overview of the board that you saw. We are creating a toolbox, so to speak, for any organization to also applies the same approach that we did with the actors that we worked with. So that's a first set of results, and then there are different learnings on the different levels on which we worked. For example, the donut portrait of the region is very informative to realize the concrete situation of the region. Brussels is supposed to be a very developed country. It's
compared to Kenya. If you compare Kenya to Brussels or Nairobi to Brussels, I don't know.
Yeah, it's of course a difficult comparison. It's not the same context. In Kenya, I worked in slums where the issue is just day-to-day surviving, basically. So of course, it might not be the same stark situation here. Of course, you have social security systems in place, but still, what we see with the donut portrait of the region is that many people in the Brussels region are very way below the social foundation. One third of the population is at risk of poverty, for example. So it's really huge. You know, when we think about Brussels, we think about the capital of Europe, but actually the population is very divided, and there are a lot of inequalities. So that's something which is made visible by the donut portrait, for example.
And did you get a lot of support at the political level? Is another question in Brussels to start a project, or will you get now enough political support in order to use the tools that you developed and the mapping that you made to move forward? So what was the key driver for politicians, for example, to join in this project?
So as I said, the impulsion, the starting point came from one of the Secretary of State in the Brussels government. So of course we had very strong support from her, from the administration that she controls directly. But we also worked with many other administrations. We are actually not part of this particular cabinet, so we see that it's possible to create coalitions which go beyond the political party to which this particular minister belongs to. But of course, it will be a challenge for the future if the donut really wants to be taken seriously at the regional level. For example, Barbara Tract, who started this project, who initiated this project.
And she's who exactly? What's her role?
So the Secretary of State for Economic Transition. So she has this competency of economic transition. But the social aspects are in another minister. And it is actually another party, another political party. So if you want to bridge the ecological issues and the social issues, you actually have to mobilize in the very concrete context of Brussels. You have to mobilize different cabinets which are from two different parties. So that's already something that we see. There are some difficulties to have a very broad coalition, but I think, as I said, the donuts can really be a way to activate people and to demonstrate the interconnectedness of issues, that you just cannot divide things into different ministers or administrations without looking at what the other is doing.
Yeah, there is a question. Are you familiar with the deal methodology, and was it applied as well? The New Deal. It's a question of Joris.
Is it deal? Yeah, so I guess deal is Donut Economic Action Lab methodology.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, so for the portrait, we just basically followed this methodology and adapting it. The methodology, the existing methodology is very developed for this level of the portrait. And we created also other methodologies for what we did with the situations in particular. We also mobilized other tools coming this time from another organizations, which I could have mentioned as well, which is called Thriving Cities Initiative, TCI, which is also active in partnership with the deal, and they created the canvas that can be used for strategies to study public strategies through the four lenses. So we also adapted this tool from them.
There is a comment that you showed us the 4 angles, which is, I think, the local, social, the local environmental, and the global social and global environmental. What were the short conclusions of the 4 angles for Brussels, for the region of Brussels? I don't know if you can summarize it, but you mean the 4 levels: macro, yes,
meso, micro, nano? Yeah. So I think the main conclusion that we want people to realize is, again, that we don't need to wait for administrations to take the first step, or the public sector doesn't have to wait for the private sector to take the first step. Any actor where he is can already act first as a consumer, as an individual, but also as part of any type of organization. So through these 4 levels, we really wanted to show that the donut is for everybody, basically, and can be grasped by in any situation. So it's a very versatile tool, I would say, which can really be applied in a very broad diversity of situations.
Mm-hmm. But then I think the 4 lenses, if you look at the impact of the city of Brussels on social and environmental locally, and the impact on globally, could you score them? Could you use it as a scoring tool and say where they're, or it's just saying, okay, you have a lot of people still within the donut, and we do with our city pollute and have too much emissions, so we have to reduce it? Like a balanced scorecard?
Yeah. So here, of course, we are dependent on available data. So there are some issues that we can quantify. For example, we can say that the Brussels region emits 7 times what it should emit in terms of CO2 emissions, for example. And there are other domains for which data is really lacking. So that's another good outcome of looking at the region through the 4 lenses of the donut. You also make visible what we don't know yet, and what we should know. What are the new indicators that we should measure, and the recommendations that we will produce at the end will also be directed towards the statistical agency, for example, telling them, hey, we don't know anything about this particular domain, and we should have more data on this to be able to really understand the whole situation of the region. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're going to end with one question. Then we're going to go in breakout rooms where I will give all people that are listening a few basic questions to think about. The last question, which is asked, has to do, of course, with finance and currencies. To which extent does this project, to a local currency existing in Brussels or anywhere in the world, to which extent does this project maybe linked to a local currency? Wait, I can't read it. I'm going to try. With a currency based on Bitcoin architecture. So that's certainly someone who is interested in cryptocurrencies or etc. Do you see that as a necessity to add to this exercise? So is a donut sufficient enough to move towards a thriving society?
Well, sufficient, as I said, to guide our decisions and actions. I think so. Decision to and sufficient to concretely take concrete actions in these directions. Maybe not. It doesn't give us all the tools to concretely know how to realize this goal. But yeah, as I said, complementary currencies could participate in it. I don't know if it's necessary. I don't think it's sufficient as well. But complementary currencies, there is one which exists in Brussels, which is called the ZIN, and which is used by many businesses around the region, which selects basically the businesses which are already inside the donut, because the criteria of selection for those businesses are very much aligned with the taking into account the social and ecological issues.
So there is a local currency already active called the ZIN, which is used by companies or organizations that actually match the criteria of social and environmental justice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask you 3 questions to go into breakout rooms to discuss. The first question, Xenia, I'm going to use the ones we still wrote down. How does Tristan's story of Brussels Donut resonate with you? The second question is, what opportunities do you think it offers to your city and village? And thirdly, how does this story inspire you on a personal level? And now you can see the question. So Tristan will also be joining one of the breakout rooms. He doesn't know which one, nor do we. It's going to be done automatically. We're going to give you like a 25-minute time frame to chat about these questions. Please stay with us, because I think the breakout rooms is going to be really interesting to meet people, to connect, and to have a discussion or a dialogue about what we learned this evening from Tristan and the application of the donut in a major city.
And we are back.
Okay. So we gave 5 minutes more than last time we organized something, but it's probably still too short, isn't it, Joris?
Correct.
Okay, I will wait until everybody is back. I think we're a smaller group now. Have I seen that we had?
Yeah. I think everybody is back. I had a lot of people saying they were tired and they had to leave. So
Rens, you allowed him in because he just joined. Okay. I'm gonna give a small feedback of what we discussed. Tristan, is Tristan here? I can't see him right now.
I am.
Yeah. So I was together with Freddie, Gulkan, Simon, and Catherine, and basically the feedback was the donut is a visually very strong and integrated tool. It's a very good methodological approach. We are amazed that with 7 people only in 9 months, you achieved such a great job. So it's very, very impressive. So there was a very positive feedback on the presentation. They were really impressed by what happened in Brussels. Some of the questions we had was that it's really kind of a project. So it's perhaps also culturally driven, not only politically driven. And we were making the comparison between Amsterdam and Brussels. But okay, Brussels, you have different languages, different political parties, and nevertheless, you made it happen. So the question was a bit, so next steps, we touched a little bit on the money issue, that probably the currencies and the way money is being created is probably also important to move towards living on the donut. So that's what we discussed briefly. I don't know if Freddie or Gulkan or Simon or Catherine still want to add something to it. No? Okay, so that was the discussion we had in our small group. So I'm really interested to listen to the other groups, what they discussed and what came out of that about their sessions. So who takes the floor of the other teams?
Well, maybe I can. Well, first of all, our group, we were lucky to have Tristan on board. So we had more questions and got a lot of answers already. So that was really good luck, I would say. But the questions which were offered went through all kind of ranges you can imagine, from what do you do locally, how can it be duplicated, and how do you deal with some people mainly in Asia. I think China was mentioned, but I also know an example from a Japanese artist. whereby they say it's actually too late already. We are lost. We better go and look for another world. And Tristan and I also responded to that. It makes no sense to make a drama, but having communities and people coming together and looking for solutions. And if you bring that also via the donut economics or thrivability, and there are many other organizations, if you bring that on a global level, we can all learn from it. And we can learn from other communities all over the globe. And that way you will make a change. But there is also, at the same time, we need to mention very clearly, there is an urgency to act now. There is no more way to wait or postpone things. And history has learned us in the last 20 years that we have been hitting the same stone, not twice, but 100 times over the last 20 to 30 years. And we don't seem to be learning, we just make things worse. So
adding to that, I think Catherine said in our group that in case there is that urgency, like with the Corona crisis, then suddenly a lot is possible. Of course, it's being pushed, but you get the kind of transition quickly. So why don't we get that kind of transition quickly for everything which is, for example, climate change related or biodiversity related?
Well, one of the comments I can make to that is that, for example, the European Union or the European Commission does not back up the donut economy. And that is for me already a lacking. They do, I can't say back up, but they do, what do you call that?
Support,
that is it. Other principles, like the one from, is her name again, the Italian economist living
Matsunato
or something.
Yeah.
So they support her, and she has actually written about half of the EU Green Deal and the approach to it. But there should be much more happening. And if you can only see the transition from the previous European Council to von der Leyen now, that is already a huge change which happened. Before, these things were not being able to discuss at the European level. So at least you see changes happening. But even that is not drastic enough.
No, but quite recently, I think last week, there's also like an upgrade of the European taxonomy guides.
Yes.
So,
I've gone through it and it doesn't go far enough.
Yeah, okay, that I can see, but yeah, it's already a big step if, let's say, if clear indicators are mentioned for particular industries, which will be the indicators that will define whether companies, yes or no, will get grants in the future. Yeah, and if these indicators go already a lot towards renewable, circular economy, and so on, it's at least a positive step. I mean,
yeah, they're moving forward, but maybe not fast enough. Okay, that was Joris' feedback. Maybe other people of that team want to add something to it.
Sophie, and Constance was also with us.
So my dear colleague Sophie, I'm very happy you're here, by the way. But she, there she is.
I'm here. I mentioned, of course, there's the big urgency, but in the long run, we also need to educate people. And that's a big responsibility for us as educators. So that's what I wanted to add.
There is a huge gap, that's clear.
And I fully agree.
Because otherwise we will be having a generation that believes that there's an urgency, but the generations after that will still be taught the wrong things. So.
Yeah. But if you look at, for example, the university we work for, KDG, they changed now the mission and vision statement. And now, I mean, it was there, the word sustainability, but it didn't mean anything. And now it becomes a lot more concrete. So you see that, and also University of Antwerp, they started now with the chair in sustainability. Maybe it's a bit late, but at least it starts to trickle down also in university and their education. But the programs are still far from how they should be, I think, even within KDG. We're still learning them.
Tristan gave us some ideas which maybe we can implement for students. So
Very good, very good.
What about different schools working together? Because I see KDG here, and you talked about UA, but Anne van der P represents yet another
Thomas
school.
More.
What about working together, making a
especially in
huge
Antwerp.
donut?
But it starts earlier, huh?
Yeah, it starts
Yeah.
I mean, as long as you don't have grants that incentivize research in sustainable.
But we do now.
whatever.
There's a new Erasmus program. So
No,
maybe
no. What I mean is like, I mean, you apply for research grants, you get them for like 3 years, 5 years, sometimes 1 year. But as a researcher, I mean, at the university, and actually the teaching is closely tied to your research. And I don't think that, and especially economists, are not very interested in contradicting their own research because they have egos. And as long as they are not allowed or not incentivized to change the research topic, the teaching will not change.
we have to move from ecosystems to ecosystems.
17 years ago, there was a very clear statement made: before you learn the new, you need to unlearn. And as long as you don't do that, and you need, be incentivized by it. So still a long way to go.
If I may add to Eddie,
Yes,
I believe
Xavier.
you mentioned University of Antwerp. I would look more at Antwerp Management School, where the sustainability chair is residing. I think they've got they have a smart approach. They partner with companies.
Mm-hmm. They have an event tomorrow at 6.
They have regular events indeed. They also have an initiative now on circular economy and work for good. And I see this when they launched the chair. There is big names of companies in there, and all these companies, they are eager to work with academics. That's also a way to fund the research. Maybe for an economic research, it's not my field of expertise, but maybe there are other government instances that can help you. But I'm a strong believer that if we want to go for a new economy, we need all the parties. You need not just
Business.
the politicians, you need finance institutions who also have to legally invest in sustainability. And you need the practitioners, the companies. And by putting the three together, you create a very strong offer. And I think that the traditional way of looking at grants for the EU and elsewhere, it exists and I understand, but I fully understand what is being said is it's 3 years, 5 years, and then it's done. Whereas if you do this with the financial institution or whether you do this with a private company, they will use the research and do something with it.
I agree. It's the combination of the stakeholders, and the Antwerp Management School is doing a good job by bringing the big companies, BASF, etc., together. Difference between what you're saying, what you're doing is still there, but at least the cooperation started.
I see a lot happening. I've participated in some courses. I know Professor Visser. I see also what he's trying to achieve, and I see results.
Well, those are the basic principles also. What has to be done with the donut or the use of the donut economy models. Amsterdam has proven that you need both the social communities, the political arena, you need the companies involved, chambers involved, every stakeholder actually. And in Brussels, they have done, to a certain extent, they've tried to do that, but they are running out of financing now. And Tristan has explained this a little bit, but they might find other ways to continue the work, and it's far from done.
Yeah. There was another group that we didn't hear. Is that correct? So there's a third breakout, 2 more breakout rooms. So I would like to have them as well. We have a bit more than 10 minutes.
No, just 3 groups in total.
Okay. Wow, we have a lot of ex-KDG people. Xavier, you too, and then yeah, and Freddie as well. That's nice.
By the way, we're going to introduce Xavier to Imagine Life once we can all get together again.
Okay, fine. He's more, well, all of you, you're welcome in Antwerp, even the people from Berlin. And so what about the other group, the third group? Who is representing that group? So we have, say, 10 minutes max left. And it stays silent. So any particular, okay.
I don't know. Yeah, I was on the first group, but I've talked already too much. So maybe I don't know whether anyone else, who else was there? Eileen was there, Misha was there, Alessandra was there, Cecile was there. So ladies, equality, now's the time.
I will step up. We had a little bit of a chaotic conversation, so I don't know if I can tell you everything that's been said, but everyone can join in if they want. We started talking. I think we also have a question for Tristan about the ambition of the program or the goals at the beginning, and if this is going to be to have more effect in Brussels, or is someone, yeah, what's the next steps? That was not very clear to us. What we thought was interesting is how the tool, and definitely I think it definitely the macro level, it could serve as an eye opener for how badly things are going in a local community, or in Brussels, or anywhere you put it. And I think what we also found interesting was how it shows the interconnectedness between when you make a decision here, what the consequences are in other fields. And then we started talking about system thinking, and then it went the conversation
all the way. But maybe your question, maybe Tristan can answer your question, the next steps.
Sure. Well, of course, we don't know yet everything about the next steps. The cabinet of the Secretary of State will receive our results, and of course, we hope that it will spark new actions, maybe new funding for another organization, maybe for this one. But that next steps will follow. But for this part, we are kind of dependent on the political will. That's an aspect that we discussed in our groups. You have to balance in this kind of initiatives the grassroots level and the political level. And that's what we saw in other cities. Other donut projects in other cities are purely grassroots. It's citizens coming together to create donut groups and lead activities. Of course, they are not dependent on funding and goodwill from the political entities, but of course, it's only voluntary-based work, so they are also more limited. So there's a kind of a trade-off between the two models and a balance to find. But we hope that we also participated in creating this movement or this coalition. And as I said, by the activation of all the actors that we worked with, we hope to see many donuts popping up in the Brussels region, even though we may not be here tomorrow anymore, or maybe the Secretary of State will shelve our report, which is not our hope, of course, but yeah, we hope that it's the beginning of something, and next steps will follow.
One question, Tristan. I guess once you've presented the report, it will probably become publicly available on the Brussels,
Sure.
website, I guess. Huh?
We have actually we have a public event on the 25th of May, in which both Barbara Tracht, the Secretary of State, and Kate Raworth will participate, in which we'll present our results and open it for discussion, and of course make public all the materials that we are producing, which will be available on our website to download, of course. Yes.
I shared the website. I think Tristan, you also mentioned that you can subscribe to kind of newsletter.
Yeah.
And then if we do that, we will be kept informed about that launch on the 28th of May. So
25th, yeah.
25th of May, 25th of May. Okay. Yeah. So that would be really interesting to find out. I mean, to participate perhaps to the event and see what the next steps are. Yeah.
Yeah, you're all welcome.
Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, can I ask you what you take with you from this event tonight? You can or say it and share it, or you can put it in the chat box. So what do you take with you from this session? It can be an action point, it can be a feeling.
For me, it was the first time that I heard this donut economy in practice, with these 4 lenses and the layers and the macro, meso level. It made for me the donut more concrete. So I'm very, very happy that I participated this evening. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Anne. Feedback from other participants? Learn more about the report result and learnings on how to make this more practical, from Xavier.
I follow for the last year and a half, maybe almost 2 years, the donut principles a little bit. And they were, to me, not always that accessible in terms of understanding and applying them. But it seems that with DEAL, and the way Brussels also involved DEAL, it's becoming more and more accessible to the large communities. And that is essential because you need to get them all on board.
Yeah, true. Thanks for sharing, Joris. Do we still have a few other people who want to share?
Hi, thank you very much, Tristan, for a great presentation. Really enjoyed it. What I thought was really good is what I tried to explain when I was in the group with Eddie, is that what you guys managed to do is to kind of like, pull the circle, the simple idea of the circle. You talked about on the one side things being very complex, but also on another side very simple. And I think from looking at it, lost for the right language right now, but it's kind of like made it a lot more obvious that the intricacies involved, and that this simple idea of just this loop, is a lot more that we're actually talking about. I mean, when I talk about circularity, I talk about more about the thrivability, which was the theme tonight, is the what do we call it again? Now I've lost the word.
Spiral.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Even talking about cradle to cradle and that kind of thing is the spiral in it. And I think your study has given that a lot of depth, which I think is great. So
Okay,
I
thank you,
found that
Simon.
very inspiring. Thank you.
And Gulkan said different points of views that he enjoyed and liked. Xenia, I'm going to ask you to share perhaps that last slide to wrap it up, because we didn't hear everybody. Perhaps somebody else wants still to share something. I'm going to share something myself. I also enjoyed it a lot because I've been teaching the donut for quite a while, but I never seen it really applied to such an extent. And also the explanation of Tristan made it very clear how it works. So for me, it's promising. We were discussing here already in public. Hopefully, a city like Antwerp follows with what was also suggested, all the stakeholders involved, the companies, the universities, the citizens, the politicians. I think we need that backing. Oriana, I'm positive and curious about the future economy. Hopefully other cities from Belgium would take inspiration and follow. So, Xenia, you wanted to add something?
I just wanted to share the link to the Brussels donut again, so everybody sees it. And then I suppose that the reports will be also published on this website, so donut.brussels. And then it's not working again, don't know why. Yeah. These are the links to our group on Facebook, on YouTube, and we will have first a fine summer, but after the summer, I guess we will come back and you will find everything on Eventbrite. The partners of tonight were Imagine Life, which I hope will open again in the center of Antwerp, and Restory. We are very happy to have you with us to write alternative stories, not only about economics, but about the society we're living in. Voila.
And what you've been participating to will be edited and also on the YouTube channel that was also shared in the slide that Xenia now took away. Tristan, final event will be broadcasted and recorded in English. Reports will be in French and in Netherlands. Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to thank you for being with us. I hope it was an inspirational evening. And we hope to see you again, if possible, in real life, face to face. That would be really nice. If not, still online, or perhaps for some international events, we will be online. So to all of you, have a good night's rest and see you again, hopefully soon.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
After drink.
Yeah, you can stay for the after drink. Those who want, we're gonna grab some beer, but we're gonna stop the recording. Sorry, I should have. Xenia will have. So those who want, you can still stay a bit. We're gonna drink something and have a small chat afterwards. So, but if you want to call it a day, then it's fine with us too.